Pochettino has left Chelsea, which means their sporting directors Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart will have the arduous task of replacing another manager and rebuilding their side again. You can say that the club needs to rebuild their side every season, and that's what Chelsea's administration has done every year post Marina Granatskaya and the Roman Abramovich era. They've been handing out 8-year contracts to footballers no older than myself, and that's proved to be an unsuccessful business model. No surprise. They ended the season with 5 wins from 6, which is similar form to the likes of Man City and Arsenal. That just makes Pochettino's sacking even more surprising. The new manager and their coaching staff will also have to look at improving areas of weakness within the side. I've outlined left back, centre back, and another midfield position as their weakest points currently. I mentioned that there's some areas in the squad that need to be improved upon, but we know that Chelsea have spent 1 quintillion billion gazillion nillion pounds since Todd Bowley and his team have come in with Clear Lake Capital, so whatever players they bring in need to be on a budget, and I've outlined £75 million, I know, chump change, that should be used to fill up a few gaps in their starting 11. Furthermore, have to make note that Chelsea have Europa League football next season, so they'll need a bigger squad than they have used this season. Thiago Silva will be leaving at the end of this season, or he has left already, and they'll need a replacement for that. He's a character, a footballer who brings leadership, experience and reliability to his side. He's shown that through winning the Champions League, I think the Super Cup and the Club World Cup during his tenure at Stamford Bridge. To replace him, you'll need a similar profile footballer, and there are not many like Thiago Silva on the planet right now. He has a 94.4% pass completion rate according to FBref. He also has 3.65 progressive passes per 90. So you'll need someone who's able to either carry the ball up pitch or who's able to distribute it towards your midfield. Someone who basically transitions from defense to attack. Benoit Badiashile, someone similar to Thiago Silva's profile, is already at the club. He's been playing alongside him. He played alongside him in the final Premier League match against Bournemouth. But you'll also want someone to partner him, someone a bit older, a player with more experience. Jonathan Tah of Leverkusen, the 28-year-old, has just won the Bundesliga, is in a DFB Pokal final, and also the final of the Europa League. And not to mention he hasn't lost a game this season. Similar to Thiago Silva, Tah has 94% pass completion this season. And from a more attacking perspective, he has 0.83 shot creating actions per 90, which means that he's getting into positions where he's able to take a shot, and why wouldn't you want your centre backs to be able to shoot? That was Antonio Rudiger's whole thing, wasn't it? At 28 years old and 1 year left on his contract, he is valued at €30 million. And due to the conditions of his contract, a fee of around 30, maybe even £25 million should be enough to take him away from Leverkusen and to Chelsea. Both Ben Chilwell and Marco Correa are incredibly inconsistent, and Starboy Lewis Hall will be going to Newcastle on a permanent deal when his loan expires. I think it's been half a decade since they've had a decent left back, and that was Cesar Azpilicueta playing on the other side of defence. And this is where Ryan Aït-Nouri comes in. The 23-year-old has had experience in the Premier League since the pandemic season, which is a while ago, and he's been quietly excellent for Wolves, especially in the latter half of the season. He really passes the eye test. His underlying numbers show that he's statistically better than Chilwell and Cucurella, and while the 23-year-old is valued at around £27 million, I'm sure that a deal around 30 mil should take him away from Molineux, and he would be a really sound acquisition for whatever manager comes in. Very versatile, very good. Another decent acquisition would be Harry Wilson, especially from his perspective, as he would be moving from West London to West London. There are a number of quotas that Wilson fits for Chelsea. He is left-footed, he is homegrown, and he has Premier League experience. The 27-year-old is also a free kick specialist, something that Raheem Sterling isn't. He also provides cover to Cole Palmer, who is brilliant but will also need a rest at some point, especially given that Chelsea will have European football next season. Not only will he cover for Palmer, but he is a different type of winger to Nodi Madueke, akin to Cole Palmer, operating the right half spaces, drifting infield on his left foot, putting balls into the box or shooting from just outside the D. Wilson's current contract at Fulham doesn't expire for another 2 years if I'm not mistaken, but with a market value of £17 million, I'm sure something around 15 mil should take him away from Craven Cottage. There's empirical evidence that Chelsea don't need to bring any more players into the club. They have a vast squad as is, and their recent form has been something to be proud of, so why do they need to change anything? The truth is the club is still in a transition period, and that transition period brings forth chance for change. They just need to make sure that that change is good and remains good. We've used up the £75 million budget we had available, and this is what the squad looks like with those new additions. Of course, all of this is dependent on whoever Chelsea brings in. Roberto De Zerbi might be the most obvious candidate given that he left Brighton, and Chelsea have a history of taking whatever Brighton develop. But there may be other managers with similar ideologies, similar philosophies, similar styles of football that may adopt something like this. Maybe they won't use specific players, they might use players who are similar in profile to these. But whatever the case may be, Chelsea seem to be on the up.